Alvin and Risha, can you guys open the document, all goods?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And then I'm going to share my screen. Let me know if you can also see my screen.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. Risha?
Yeah, same.
Perfect. Okay. So steps to write a story. So this is everything you have to do to end up with a finished story. So you have to form characters. You have to choose a setting. You have to develop a plot. You go through your first draft, you edit that, you get a final copy, and then sometimes your school might also ask you to do a reflection on it. But I don't think you guys do that in year 9, so we can just ignore that for now. So forming characters. Now, when forming characters, it's a common trap to fall into to over-describe the characters you form. Sometimes less is more when describing. So do you guys know who Stephen King is? He's written a lot of books. For example, It, the Clown. Yeah, he wrote the original book. And he's got a book about writing, and that's what I've taken some little excerpts out of. So it's just not me talking to you guys the whole time. Who is happy to volunteer for some reading? Doesn't have to be the whole thing. We can break it up paragraph by paragraph. Yeah, Carmen, do you want to go for it? So do you want to start from description? Do you want to do like the first paragraph?
Description is what makes the reader a sensory participant in the story. Good description is a learned skill. One of the prime reasons why you cannot succeed unless you read a lot and write a lot. It's not just a question of how to, you see, it's also a question of how much to. Reading will help you answer how much, and only reading of writing will help you with the how. You can learn only by doing description. Description begins with the visualization of what it is you want the reader to experience. It ends with your translation. What you see in your mind into words on the page is far from easy.
Okay. So, as I've said, we've all heard someone say, man, it was so great or horrible, strange, funny, etc. I just can't describe it. If you want to be a successful writer, you must be able to describe it, and in a way that will cause your reader to prickle with recognition. Thin description leaves the reader feeling bewildered and nearsighted, and an over description buries him or her in details and images. The trick is to find a happy medium, and it's also important to know what to describe and what can be left alone while you get on with the main job, which is storytelling. Now, Adrian, do you want to read the next paragraph for us?
I'm not particularly keen on writing which exhaustively describes the physical characteristics of the people in the story and what they are wearing. I find wardrobe growth inventory particularly irritating. If I want to read descriptions of clothes, I can always get a J. Crew category.
Catalog. Yeah.
I can't remember many cases where I felt I had to describe what the people in a story of mine looked like. I rather let the reader supply the face, the builds, and the clothing as well. If I tell you that Carrie White is a high school outcast with a bad complexion and a fashion victim wardrobe, I think you can do the rest, can't you? I don't need to give you a pimple by pimple, skirt by skirt rundown. We all remember one of the high school outcast. After all, if I describe mine, it freezes out yours, and I lose a little bit of the bound of understanding I want to forge between us. Description begins in the writer's imagination, but should finish in the reader's.
Yeah, so this line, I think, is one of the most... Oh, that's an ugly color. I think this line is what we really want to keep in mind when we're doing creative writing. So you want the reader to essentially be able to close their eyes and picture exactly what you're trying to describe. So it's a matter of describing it enough that they can picture it, but not too much where it feels like just like a shopping list of descriptions. Like you're going, they're this tall, they've got this colored hair, they've got this color, like that just sounds overdone. Okay. Risha, do you want to read the next paragraph? Okay, this is a bit laggy. Sorry, just give it a sec. There you go. Okay, so from more so to like here to weekends.
Weekends? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. More so, a useful tip is to not reserve parts of your story solely dedicated to describing a character. This creates the feel of reading a list of descriptions, leaving the reader's imagination limited, and most of all takes away from the momentum of your story. Rather, try to describe a character while they are doing something. For example, the below sounds like a bad dating profile, not an excerpt from an imaginary text. John was a 35-year-old storeman. He had dark brown hair, hazel eyes, and lived on a unit in his own. He was rather loud and obnoxious around people, and often was arrogant. He was quite lazy, but loved to play video games on the weekend.
Cool. And Alvin, do you want to read up to here for me?
Okay, starting from John dragged his heavy body.
Yeah. So this what Rachel just read out to us is like a bad example of how description happens. This one is weird. It's like this S. Okay, and now Alvin's going to read for us how we could probably write it better. So this is an example of maybe this is what you're writing on your first draft, and then this is what it's turning into when you're editing. So this is a good way for you to look at your writing and see where and how can I improve. Okay, Alvin, go for it.
John dragged his heavy body off the lounge, maneuvering around the PS3 controller and knocking the half-eaten bag of chips that was his dinner. The knock on the door was louder this time. He grunted in response, turning his back on the array of corn chips that now littered his coffee table. Peering through the peephole, he narrowed his hazel eyes. In a pathetic attempt to seem presentable, he pushed back his oily dark blonde hair. He focused his booming voice on the kid at the door. "What'd you want?" The boy reeled back, intimidated, making John smirk. Even at 35, he still enjoyed ruffling up kids.
Okay, so you guys, let's hear your feedback. Which one do you like better, number 1 or number 2? What do you think sounds more? 2. Yeah, more capturing, more interesting. Adrian?
2.
2, yeah. So what do you guys think? I know it says it underneath, but what do you guys think the main difference between 1 and 2 is, or first impression? So it's great for us to be able to say it sounds better, but it actually doesn't help us if we don't know how it sounds better, because then we just know that sounds good. How do we actually do it? So what do you guys think? From what you can see, probably without reading the answers right underneath, what makes it better?
Imagery.
Yeah, we have imagery. I think what we'll go through now is the main difference, which is that the plot is developing in number 2. Oh my god, this is so annoying. My old one wasn't like this. Yeah. So in number 1, when John's not actually doing anything, we're just describing what he looks like and how he acts. Yeah. That's all. So if we have a story about, let's say John was like the president or something, yeah, let's say he's saving the country, we're going to stop the story just to describe John and then continue it. That's not what we should be doing. We should be actually integrating our description through the plot. So in the second one, although nothing much happens, what happens? Someone knocks on the door, he gets up, he enters the door. That's literally all that happens. It still makes it a lot more seamless, as you guys can see with reading it. So that's that, and then I'll read here. So just give it a sec, let it finish. Okay. A common question students ask is, how many characters do I need? So there is no one answer to this, but refrain from having more than 5 key characters in a short story as to avoid confusion. Remember that teachers and markers, they read several stories when marking for a task, and they read through it really quickly. They will skim these stories. So it's better to not have too many extra characters that don't really add anything. That way your markers aren't getting confused. And also you want to use the character pronoun rule. So John did blah, he then blah. You want to swap between their name and their pronouns. That's it. Now, a little task for you guys. I'm going to introduce you to a good friend of mine called Lily. She is 26 and scrolling down for some reason. She is 26. She is neat, unadventurous, intelligent, disciplined, and scared of change. So what is our basic plot to set us up? Lily is usually a boring person, has decided to quit her stable corporate job as she does not feel content with her life. So that's our little prompt. I want you guys to describe her in at least 100 words. I'm going to give you around 15 minutes to do that. And I want you guys to keep in mind what we just went through above, keeping in mind the name and pronoun rule where we're going to swap, and keeping in mind that we want to describe her through her actions, not pausing the plot to describe her. Any questions for me? No? Cool. Okay. Also, side note, what if you guys can send me your last assessment tasks to my emails, just so I can see where everyone is at, what kind of writing, so that way I don't have to give you a pre-test, because I would really rather not put you guys through that. That would be great. If I don't get everyone's assessments, I'll have to give a pre-test, just so I know where everyone's at and what I should be focusing on. And my email should be in the Skype chat for you guys. Let me double check it's there.
Okay, our results.
You don't have to share your results if you wouldn't be comfortable, but in saying that, I'm not going to judge anyone for their results. I'm not going to ever bring up your results either. But just an example of your work is really what I'm after.
Miss, my last assessment task was online.
Yeah.
Sorry,
what was that?
my last assessment task was online. Do I just take a photo of it and just put it in the your email?
Online, like, was it an essay?
Like it was like written on paper, like the essay.
Written on paper?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. You can just take a photo for me.
If I can find it.
Cool. Yeah, all good. Even if it's a struggle to find that, you can like go to the one before that if it's easier. Just an essay you have, if you can send it to me. Something that's been written
I've
this
got
year.
the draft because I've got the other one on paper.
That's fine. That's more than enough. In the Skype group chat.
I'm not in Skype.
Oh, what? Okay. Do you have Skype?
No.
Can you download Skype? That will make it a lot easier, because what we're doing is we're doing everything through Skype, calling through Skype. So I'm recording these lessons. So if you forget anything I say, rather than having to like rack your brain and be like, what the hell was Jenna on about today? You can just watch the recording. So much easier. And then also I'm going to be a pain as well. Can you guys? So obviously you guys made copies of that main master document I shared you. If you guys can share those with me, that would be great. So I can just review where everyone's at and when's a good time to move on without cutting you guys off short.
Is your email on Skype?
Yeah, it should be in the group chat. See there? It's there. Yeah, cool.
Miss, I can't get
Yes.
my assessment task because it was like done in term 1, and since then my teacher left and all of us were like removed from the classroom, and like that was like the only assessment task we've done the entire year, and like close to an essay.
Did you you would have had to do it on a, oh no, was that document? No, you should still have the document that you did it on.
No. It was like more like an essay in a video, and you had to present it.
Okay, and you have you written an essay for school at all this year? Even not assessment, just like a task, like a homework thing?
No, not really.
Do you have anything from last year?
Last year I was in a different school. Everything got deleted.
Oh,
Yeah.
you have no paper trail, do you?
Yeah. I have my grades, but then I don't know what you're gonna do with my grades.
Could I get you to maybe write a paragraph for me for homework?
Yeah.
Yeah, just something quick. Like I'm not going to take it as like the be all end all, just for me to see whereabouts you are. I'll send you, what text have you been doing in school? Just, you said protest poetry, is that right?
Mhm.
If you want for homework, just write me like the quickest, smallest paragraph you want, just on protest poetry for any question you want. And then just send it to me just so I can get a feel for where you're at. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay.
Cool, perfect. Cool, I got all your stuff, Carmen. Thank you. Let me know when you got Skype. And I will.
Yeah, it's got.
Okay. I'm gonna add. Scott, okay. Page. I didn't know how to add people. There you go. So you. So you're code. Okay, sorry. No, that's you or not. I'm just gonna add it. So the messenger range, that messenger range. Okay, cool. So now I'll add you to a group chat. Alright, you are in the group chat. Just have a look. Can you see what has been sent or added you or no?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So my email's there, and then you've got the document that you're working on there, and that's it.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'll work on my assessment because I got my gig next week.
Can you just send me your notification so I can have a look?
Yeah.
Cool. Alright. Thank you, Risha. I just got your assessment.
Miss, with some of the pages, I don't know if you can read my handwriting because I write kind of. So
No, that's
Like, some of the
alright. It's
pa-
absolutely fine.
yeah, some of them might be too small, or like some of the pages they're just really messy, so you might not be able to read it.
That's okay. No, don't worry. I've seen worse, to be honest. It's not too bad. Don't stress. I've had some crazy handwriting. Okay.
I also put my quote sheet like
Yes, I
on
saw
the
that. Thank you so much.
yeah
So you got to take that quote sheet in with you?
yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Okay, Adrian. So is your task a hand-in or in person?
It's in person.
In person. So your goal is to write it and memorize it?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Do you have the question?
It's like unseen question.
Unseen question. So your goal is to just write like a plain essay and then adapt it to the question?
Yeah, because it's gonna be about a symbolic image.
Yes, okay. Do you want me to mark it for you, like to edit and give suggestions?
I've like started doing it. I'm still like doing it.
Okay, do you want to finish first and then do that?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you guys all have my email and my Skype contact. So anything throughout the week that you guys need, you're more than welcome to reach out. Who's your teacher?
Miss Audition.
Risha, could you just send me your the doc that you're working on now for writing creatively?
Oh yeah, okay.
Thank you. And it seems like everyone's around halfway through roundabouts. Perfect, just got that, thank you. Also, you guys can just call me Jenna, you don't have to call me Miss. Okay, I'm gonna give you guys around 10 minutes to finish that up. I'm just gonna run to the bathroom and be back in a sec. Okay, how you guys doing? Any questions for me? Another 5 minutes, we'll finish up this part and move on to the next part. Is that enough? Okay, Alvin, I'm on your dock at the moment. See how you've got the bit of dialogue here where she speaks?
Yeah.
Yeah, so in creative writing, just so you know, the way they usually, this usually they start doing in year 10, year 11, but just so you look a bit fancier to your teachers, the way we do dialogue is we usually do it like that, yeah, where it's actually on a new line and indented.
Yeah. Okay.
Can't with yours. Okay, just be careful. Are you on Google? You're right here. Let me just go. Oh my god, how can you see that? That's tiny. Okay, I'm like old and blind. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so with Z, the fact that it's not coming up means that you are actually in American
Grammarly.
style. Are you on Grammarly?
Yeah, I've got Grammarly.
Grammarly should pick it up.
Maybe it's got the.
Yeah, if you want, open a new doc, but you can even change your Google settings.
Oh, okay.
So, I think you can open a new tab here.
Yeah.
Cool. I think you actually have to go to docs itself. And then trim correctly. Setting. Oh. I'm confusion.
Maybe it's not loading yet.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe, but anyway, you can open, if you want to open Grammarly, you can change your Grammarly as well. Because I know Grammarly is always set American. I have the same thing where I had to change it to.
It's good, but it's annoying because whenever like a text comes up, yeah, it's weird.
I know, it's a bit.
So it's hard to read because it will.
Yes, and it's also a bit glitchy with Google Docs, I find. Like sometimes you click on it works, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it like jumps around. Very annoying.
How do I change it on Grammarly?
Sorry, no. Sorry. Let me have a look. Account. Email preferences, I'm writing as well. Not writing.
I think it's auto sets that.
Yeah.
First alphabet.
English. Do they just have English? Yeah, English, and then English Australia. What the hell?
It's just being
English
annoying.
Australia, yeah. And then I'm like very harsh. Okay, well, as long as you know
What is it with S?
yeah.
Yeah.
All those things are characterized, realize. We don't really use any verbs. So good.
Okay, I'll fix that.
And what else was I going to say? Oh, tense. Yeah. I want you to focus on tense because that's what a lot of students struggle with, where they'll swap from past to present. So one example you've done that. So you've done on her way to buy a coffee as she's listening to the radio. So you've gone from past tense here. No, sorry, you've gone from present to past to on her way to buy coffee, past, she's listening to the radio, present, she realizes present. So you're swapping around here. So what's a better way to do this? If you want to, do you want to swap all to past or all to present?
Present.
Present, okay. So worry about future. She had already. So she future. Worried about the future. So she wakes up. She already made her decision. She was sick of shock. Saying and so we're talking the same tense, realizes that she left her phone. Yeah, cool. Now it's all the same tense.
Okay,
So
thank you.
very small changes and easy changes, but it's one of those things where the teachers, if they see it, they'll jump on it and be like, tense. Pretty sure it's not. Pretty sure. Also, same thing with tense. So in this little list you've got here, you've swapped from past to present a bit. So you say she walked with high hopes, head held high, flipped her fresh blonde hair, and flashed a cheery smile. So if she's walking currently, which it seems like she is, you would say as she's walking with her head held high, or you could say she's walking with high hopes, head held high, flipping her fresh blonde hair. So this has to change to flipping. So sure. And flashing a cheery smile. Yeah. So that way it's all in present. Okay, we went a bit over. I'm going to move on. And this little character description part will be, if you haven't finished already, for homework. Okay, let's move on. So that is the first part of a creative writing story, which is characters. Now we're going to move on to setting. So who wants us to read for me? Let's go in reverse order. Risha, do you want to read this part for me?
Yeah, okay. Okay. When writing about setting, the goal is to make is to make it believable as possible. You want to create a verbal cinema of which the reader is able to read the description of setting and imagine the same mental image the writer had when writing it. A common device employed by writers is to set their stories in a location they've been to. This gives the writing an authentic voice. It would be much more believable to set your story somewhere you know, school, doctor's office, particularly city, rather than in an exotic, over the top location such as a jungle or an international space station, unless you've been there. Below is an extract from Stephen King's On Writing concerning setting.
Yeah, so just a little recap on that part. I always think that you should always be writing about a setting that you have been to. That way you actually know what you're describing. You don't want to have to be making up the setting also while describing it. It's a bit overkill. As well as a good thing to do is close your eyes and imagine it. And when you've been there, it's a lot easier to do that. And you will see that now. So, Alvin, do you want to read? No, we've already done that. Read this part for me.
Yep, okay. One of my favorite restaurants in New York is the Steakhouse Palm 2 on 2nd Avenue. If I decide to set a scene in Palm 2, I'll certainly be writing about what I know, as I've been there a number of occasions. Before beginning to write, I'll take a moment to call up any image of the place, drawing from my memory and fulfilling my mind's eye, an eye whose vision grows sharper the more it is used. I call it a mental eye, because that's the phrase with which we're all familiar. But what I actually want to do is open all my senses. The first four things which come to my mind when I think of Palm 2 are A. The darkness of the bar and the contrasting brightness of the back bar mirror, which catches and reflects light from the street. B. The sawdust on the floor. C. The funky cartoon caricatures on the wall. D. The smells of cooking steak and fish. If I think longer, I can come up with more stuff. What I don't remember, I'll make up during the visualization process. Fact and fiction become entwined. But there's no need for more. This isn't the Taj Mahal we're visiting after all, and I don't want to sell you about the place. It's also important to remember it's not about the setting. Not about the setting anyway. It's about the story. And it's always about the story.
So again, we're talking about being very plot driven, where the setting is kind of just where the plot's happening. It's not the main part of our story. And Carmen, do you want to read this part for us?
Yeah. The cab pulled up in front of Palm 2 at 3:45 on a bright summer afternoon. Billy paid the driver, stepped out onto the sidewalk, and took a quick look around. Martin, not in sight. Satisfied, Billy went inside. After the hot clarity of 2nd Avenue, Palm 2 was as dark as a cave. The back bar mirror picked up some of the street glare and glimmered in the gloom like a mirage. Like a mirage. For a moment, it was all Billy could see, and then his eyes began to adjust. There were a few solitary drinks at the bar. Beyond them, they
Maitre d'. It's a French word. It literally just means front of house. So you know when you walk into a restaurant and there's always that one person saying like it's behind the sign where it's like line up here. That's called the maitre d'.
the maitre d', his tie undone and his shirt cuffs rolled back to show his hairy wrist, was talking with the bartender. There was still sawdust sprinkled on the floor. Billy noticed as if this was a 20s speakeasy instead of millennium.
Yep.
Each tree where you couldn't smoke, let alone spit a gob of tobacco between your feet, and the cartoons dancing across the walls, gossip column caricatures of downtown political hustlers, newsmen who had long since retired or drunk themselves to death, celebrities you couldn't quite recognize, still got gambled all the way to the ceiling. The air was redolent of steak and fried onions. All of it the same as it ever was.
Okay. So the best way to describe setting is through sensory imagery, and we know there is 5 senses. So these are the not official, but the actual names for all the techniques. So these 5 are techniques that you can use and find in other texts. So we've got visual imagery, which you guys should all be pretty familiar with. Then tactile imagery is to do with touch. Olfactory imagery is with smell. Auditory imagery is with hearing. And then gustatory imagery, which is a bit of a weird one, that refers to taste. So when we combine all 5, we are left with a well-rounded description of the setting, like the example below. So in the example below, I've got all 5 senses. So as I entered the house, a cool wind whistled around the eaves and ate at the bristling hairs on my neck. Cobwebs hung all over the dilapidated stairway. An agonizing moan sailed down the steps and resonated around the hallway. Long, deep scratches bit into the fragile timber of doorways. Rotting damp pervaded the air and scraped at my throat, leaving a dull tang in my mouth. There was no furniture save a lone chase lounge with russet-stained dribbles that looked disturbingly like blood. So before we move on to like describing all of us getting a chance to describing setting, I want us to go through and find all of the actual different senses we have, and we'll do this together. Let me just color code everything. Okay, so visual imagery. Where can we see visual? So as I entered the house, a cool wind whistled around the eaves and ate at the bristling hairs on my neck. Is that visual?
Touch.
That would be touch. Perfect, because we can feel it. Exactly right. What should I do? Touch as pink. Okay. Now, cobwebs hung all over the dilapidated stairway. What are we talking about there? What sense?
Visual.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, Carmen, you're not going to say the next one because I want our online friends to do. No, I like it. An agonizing moan sailed down the steps and resonated around the hallway. Alvin, what kind of sensory imagery do you think that's going to go under?
That sound, auditory.
Perfect. Auditory imagery, beautiful. Next one. Long, deep scratches bit into the fragile timber of doorways. Risha, what do you think? Which sense is that?
Isn't that auditory imagery again?
Not exactly. Here we're talking about visual imagery because we're describing the deep scratches into the doorway that we can see.
Oh, right.
But that one's written a bit strangely. Okay, next one. Rotting damp pervaded the air and scraped at my throat, leaving a dull tang in my mouth. That one's obviously taste. Now, what you'll realize with a lot of gustatory imagery, which is where we're talking about taste, it's usually not literal. Yeah, a lot of the times there's not going to, unless your character's eating something, there's not a lot of chances to describe taste. So usually it's kind of a metaphorical thing. So if someone's scared, they have a bad taste in their mouth, or you could say they're so happy that the air tasted sweeter, something cheesy like that. So there was no furniture. So here we're describing what we're seeing. So that's visual. These are all, and we've literally said that looked like blood. So that's obviously visual. So you can see the most we have is visual because that's usually the easiest one, but you don't want to limit yourself just to visual. Okay, now your turn. So kind of the same thing we were doing with old mate Lily, we're now doing with this, this photo as well. So I've broken it down into a bit more steps. So we have this photo of classic outback bush Australia, and I want you guys to fill out this table. So visual, tactile, olfactory, auditory, and gustatory. And once we've done that, we're going to the describing setting part. I might actually just leave for homework so we have time to do it. But I'll give you guys around 10 minutes to do this section. And does anyone have any questions?
Wait, is it in like dot points?
Yeah, you can put it in dot points. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Is it adding it as comments?
Yeah, you're in suggesting mode.
That's fine.
But you can
I'd
just,
say-
if you accept it, yeah, I'll accept it, but it becomes actual text. There you go. Do you know how to change out of suggesting?
Yeah, I think I'm back on it. I think I did that by accident.
No, who are you looking for? Vision. Actually, I've got the spreadsheet here, give me a second. Why am I trying to remember?
Oh,
What's that?
I don't have. I'm so sorry. It's so late, but I literally don't have my major work anyway.
Yeah, I figured.
I'm so sorry. I should have told you.
That's all right. I kind of assumed
But-
as much.
I could ask my friend.
Where
but-
did you put it? Like, was it just on your old school account?
Yeah, because like that was when I had to switch my laptop.
Yeah.
And then I downloaded it. Obviously, my education account got removed.
Yeah, of
Just
course.
got deleted, and then when I downloaded it, like I submitted on that laptop.
Yeah.
And that laptop also got.
Okay, cool. Yeah. 7 to 8:30. He is private. He should be in C1,
C1.
Yep.
Okay.
which should be just there. Have a look.
I don't know why. Okay.
If he's not there, then he might have just gone to a random empty
Yeah.
room. No worries.
How do you describe the smell for this?
Have you been to Outback before? It's got like very dusty, dry smell. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times with smell and taste, they're not really the most literal things.
Like exaggerated.
Yeah, not exaggerated, but kind of like, okay, maybe it's not. So for example, I'm sitting here. When I breathe in, I don't really smell anything too distinctive for me to comment on. If I was trying to describe this room, maybe I could say it's quite like a clean, sterile smell. Or you could say, for example, the smell of like the sweaty 12s for getting to a deodorant before coming in. Or you could say smell of coffee and like, do you know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Sometimes you can just, if you can't do it literally, you can fill in the blanks a little bit. That's how I would recommend.
What are the like, do you know those things that you see in like the cartoons for like the Outback?
Tumbleweeds.
Those?
Yes. Exactly what you're talking about. I'll give you guys 3 minutes. And I'll be back for lunch. Risha, for the last one, I want you to describe the taste for me.
I mean, like,
I know you've probably never eaten dirt before, but like, what could
Yeah.
you imagine?
really, I don't know, dry. Like,
Yeah, dry, probably bitter. I can't imagine it would taste quite sweet.
yeah. Could it just be dry or like?
Yeah, you could say just dry. That's fine.
Yeah.
Carmen told me you're a new Joyce.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Joyce's cousin.
Yeah.
That's right.
I texted him.
Yeah, she's LMAO.
She texting in.
Yeah. It was okay. Okay. I think we're pretty much finished off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's telling me off. She's like, go focus in class.
Oh, that's rude. Tell her to focus in class. Okay. Let's move on. So for what time are we at? 8:05. Yeah, I'm gonna set this for homework. So for homework, kind of the same thing. This screen's gonna be the death of me. Kind of the same thing with what we did with Lily. We're now at least 100 words. You can go up to however many as you want. I want you now to describe the setting using the sensory imagery you've used above. So I want you to make sure you have all 5 senses. If I go through and there's not all 5 senses, I'm gonna like add a comment, be like, put this, put that. So just keep that in mind. And then we're just gonna go through the rest of the doc, which is mainly filled with like little tips and pointers and developing a plot. Okay, so most importantly when developing a short story is to not cover large periods of time. It is extremely difficult to write about a couple months in around 1,000 words. So for you guys, your word count is around 800. So it's really tricky to talk about people over months and years and only that amount of words. So we like to focus on a small episode, and if you need to establish some backstory, you can do a flashback. So a flashback is where the author shows an insight into a previous experience. I think you guys all know what a flashback is. And then we also have breaks in writing where we can actually put, let me write it in here. So we can have like blah, 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 writing, and then we can put 3 asterisks, I guess, and then you can continue writing. And this simplifies a break in time. So for example, we can jump from, let's say we're talking 3 months ago to present. Yeah. So that's how we use those different techniques, and it saves you from having to explain all the boring stuff that happened in between. So now we've got something called the shape of stories. So this is kind of used where you can actually put every single story you've ever read into one of these categories. So we've got men in hole. So main character gets in trouble, then gets out of it again and ends up better off after the experience. Boy meets girl. So main character comes across something wonderful, gets it, loses it, then gets it back together. Gets it back forever, sorry. So you can see that it says boy meets girl, but it's not actually about always romantic interests. It might be they get a laptop, loses it, and then gets it back, and they get to keep it because they got a warranty or something. Then we got from bad to worse. The main character starts off poorly, then it gets continually worse with no hope for improvement. Which way is up? So the story has a lifelike ambiguity, which means like questionable, that keeps us from knowing if new developments are good or bad. Creation story. In many cultures, creation stories, humankind receives incremental gifts from a deity, which is like a god. First major staples like earth and sky, then smaller things like sparrows and cell phones. Not a common shape for Western stories, however. So usually they're not under that creation one. Old Testament. Humankind receives incremental gifts from a deity, but is suddenly ousted from good standing in a fall of enormous proportions. New Testament. Humankind receives incremental gifts from a deity, is suddenly ousted from good standing, but then receives off the charts bliss. And then Cinderella. It is similar to the shapes of Cinderella in the New Testament that thrilled Vonnegut, who wrote this whole plot thing for the first time. And then over the course of his life, he continued to write essays and give lectures on the shapes of stories. So a little fun task now. Carmen, what is your favorite movie, show, or book? Or just what
Okay.
comes to
I
mind.
like the murder mystery. Do you know the books? What's it called? 3 series. It's like, let me find it. I forgot the name of it.
That's all right.
It's good, but it's so confusing. You have to read it like 3.
Okay, so confusing. What would you think? I think it probably goes into the first 4, but which one do you think? Let's say the first book, for example. Which category do you think it would go into? Is it continuously? Is it like the main character just gets in trouble and then they have to get out of it, or is it like
It's kind of
bad, good, bad, good, bad, good?
yeah, it's kind of like bad, good.
Yeah, so we'll probably say which way is up. Yeah, for that one, where it's like there's new developments, but we don't know if they're good or bad.
Mhm.
Alvin, what is your favorite book, show, or movie?
Probably Spider-Man, Miles Morales.
I haven't seen or read any of these. That one would most likely be Men in Whole, right? Where they get into trouble and then they get out and they are better off after it.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree? Keeping in mind I haven't watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, so
and
it's like New Testament kind of like a superhero, but kind of like that.
New Testament, yes, but New Testament is a bit different where like they get gifts from this like godlike person and then it gets even better.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Whereas Old Testament is kind of like they get gifts and then it goes bad.
Mm-hmm.
And Risha, what's your favorite book, TV show, or movie?
Probably Maze Runner.
What is it?
Maze Runner.
Oh, Maze Runner.
Yeah.
Oh, finally one I've read or watched. Movie or book?
The movies.
Movies. Let's say we're working with the first movie. That would be From Bad to Worse.
Yeah.
They don't break out in the first one, do they?
No, I'm pretty sure they do, but then they get stuck in the like.
Oh yeah, so it is From Bad to Worse. And then I think if you're doing the whole series altogether, it would be Men in Whole.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions about plots? We're still going with it. Okay, so in planning a plot, common methods are dot pointing, storyboarding, and drafting. All things to discuss in your reflection if you have to do one, which you guys won't till next year, most likely. So below is a super simple example of storyboarding. It is a method of visual planning. So I really like doing these, and I'll give you guys an example. It could be something as easy like this. Shark attacks a swimmer, head washes up on the beach, and police chief is alarmed. The police chief wants to close the beaches, but the mayor is concerned the town will lose tourist dollars. That is as basic as it gets for storyboarding. Now, another key factor that is in many great plots are that they are character driven. This means that the main characters are the focus of your story rather than being a bystander. So let's say you write a story and you want to figure out, is your plot character driven or not? A good way to do it is imagine your main character didn't exist. Would the events in your story still happen, or are they reliant on them? So I've done it with the first Harry Potter book. I'm not sure if you guys have read it. Carmen, have you read it?
I watched a movie.
Watched the movie? Good enough. Alvin, Risha?
No.
Oh yeah, I've seen the first movie.
Okay. Well, I think everyone kind of knows the basic plot of the first one. So we've got it here. Basic plot is first, goes to Hogwarts. 2, the villain comes to Hogwarts in an attempt to steal something from Harry's possession. 3, Harry beats the villain. Now, if we take Harry out of this story, none of these events will actually happen. So we can say that the plot of Harry Potter is plot driven, and that's what makes it such a great series. If it was just all these things were going to happen anyway, and Harry's just along for the ride, it's not a very good read, because when we read it, we're like, his role in the story is kind of useless. He can just go home. Okay, now, here are some do nots when you're writing your story. You don't want to say, here I am sitting in my HC exam, or here I am sitting in my year 9 exam. You don't want to make it like that. You don't want to talk about things like suicide, self-harm, or extreme depression. Those will get you sent to the counsellor at your school. You don't want to end with, it was all a dream. You don't want to write from the perspective of an animal. You don't want to write from the perspective of an inanimate object. Funny story, I had a student who wrote a story from the perspective of a toilet. So it was quite
for that.
Yeah. Like, it's from a toilet. How good can it be? What does a toilet doesn't say great things? You don't want to end with to be continued or they lived happily ever after or like I woke up in a dream. You don't want to end with those really cliche kind of like the things that we probably all wrote in like year 3 NAPLAN. Now, writing is the big part of our story. We can plan for days, but writing's going to take the longest time and is the hardest part. So a lot of the time when writing a first draft, you'll pick up on some loopholes in your stories where you might have to alter your plots a little bit. It is recommended by almost all teachers to write your story from third person rather than first, and this is due to several reasons. First, when limiting yourself to one character, it limits how you may be able to develop and explore other characters. So, for example, if I'm writing a short story on Carmen, Adrian, Alvin, and Risha, and I do it all from the perspective of Carmen, I can't actually discuss how Adrian, Risha, and Alvin are feeling. Whereas if I do it as third person, I can talk about all my characters on the same level. Second, it makes your description a lot easier. It's a bit tricky to describe someone when it's first person because then it seems like they're describing themselves. Third is usually more sophisticated. And fourth, it's a lot easier to change from third person to first if you need to, rather than vice versa. So, when writing, there is a common concept accepted by all writers that said is dead. So you never want to say the word said. If I say the word said, I will have a mini heart attack. You don't want to say, this is a good lesson, Carmen said. No. That's from our picture book days. So I've got a little photo for you and it says all the different ways you can say said. So if you want it in a happy way, in a sad way, in a pained way. So whenever you're writing creative writing, you can always come back to this. Okay. Finally, when writing, you must show, not tell. Now, I'm sure who has heard show, not tell at school? Yeah, Carmen, Risha, and Alvin, have you guys heard show, not tell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if I asked you to describe to me what is show, not tell, could you describe it?
Like imagery instead of
Yeah.
like describing it, making it imaginable.
Yeah. Risha, Alvin, how would you guys describe it? Or would you not be able to?
Like show not tell, like you would describe it without describing it. So like if you're describing school, like instead of just saying, oh, I'm at school, just be like, oh, the teachers are screaming, blah blah blah, like stuff like that.
The way I like to kind of explain show, not tell is that you want to make the reader work for it. So you don't want to spoon feed the reader and say, this is exactly what happened. You want to give them a little bit of details and then they have to actually piece the dots together. So what I've done is I've put some examples. So a tell could be she used a tissue to wipe her tears. Let's say we wanted to say this without actually just telling the reader that's what she did. We can say she raised the tissue to her dampened face, wiping the salty streams. We're saying the same thing, but it sounds fancier. Then we have, he ignored her because he was angry and slammed the door. He slammed the door, threatening the ability of the hinges. He ignored her pleas for him to calm down. So we've got, again, talking about the exact same things. The room was scary. If we just have the room was scary, it's a bit basic. We're not really describing the room. We're not saying why she's scared. What we can say is she could see the condensation from her shaky breaths forming a cloud in front of her face. With an apprehensive hand, she touched the frosty wall in order to navigate the dimly lit room. And I've got, lastly, the house was on fire. The flames engulfed their living room. The air was thickening, causing a heavy blanket of heat to settle on their skins as they watched the unhinged blaze digest their belongings. So we've got a little description. Above, it is clear to see it hasn't been explicitly said what is happening, and yet it is. Still very clear to understand. There shouldn't be a full stop there. In the last example, it is never said the house is on fire, but there is no other inference that could be drawn. Yeah, so we haven't ever actually said in this part, we haven't just said the house is on fire, but the way we've described it, you can't take anything else from it. Show not tell is a hard skill to develop and often occurs during the editing and redrafting process. Your first draft will have a lot of tell, which is fine. The important thing is to be able to identify where you've told and know how to change it to a show. If you are unsure whether you are showing or telling, try reading it out loud or saying it to a family member and try to listen to how it sounds when spoken. And then I think that's the end of the document. Oh, comments from HC markers. You guys don't need to know this. And then fixing an example. Yeah, below is a short story that needs a lot of improvements. So I want you guys, so for homework, it's going to be finishing the character. Let me actually write in the homework now so I don't forget. So I'll send it in the group chat so you guys all have it. So it will be, where is Skype? So that's not you again, guys. Homework is 2, 1, finish the character description. If not finished, ready. And then 2, I want you guys to write the setting description. 3, fix the example at the bottom of the doc. Okay, homework's in the chat. Now, let's have a little read. So who wants to take the first paragraph? I'll take it. Okay, we got Carmen, Oven, Risha, you lucked out. You got a small part. Okay, go for it, guys.
Wait, do we read the top part? Hello.
Below is a part of a short story that needs a lot of improvements. Try and rewrite it underneath, altering it to make it more effective. The example is quite short. Try and extend on some things.
Lucy was a short, stubby girl with brown hair and usually wore loose, washed-out jeans and a dirty jumper. She was always teased at school. Other students would scream she was like loser.
Keep going.
Like, oh, there are tissues there for me.
There? Oh, yeah.
Like loser, nice clothes, and midget. When they said these things, it made her very upset. One night she was crying in her room. Her room was messy and had her worksheets from school on the floor. No.
Lucy.
Yeah,
do
what's
I
up?
read now? Do I read now?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Lucy had enough. She was going to run away. She walked over the sheets from school and picked up her big suitcase. She out her clothes in not bothering to fold them. Lucy unplugged her phone and hiked her suitcase downstairs. Where are you going? Said Lucy's mom. I've had enough. I'm leaving, Lucy said. Lucy's mom was tall and slender. She had long blonde hair and was often complimented by all the students at Lucy's school.
Lucy's mom rolled her eyes and said, "Okay, be back before dinner," with a bored tone. See, this wasn't the first time Lucy had tried to run away. Every time she was upset, she would pretend to leave and be back in a couple hours or so.
Okay, so reading that, let's comment on maybe some things that we would do different. So anything that comes to mind, you guys can just say out loud. What do you guys think is missing or is done incorrectly and makes it not the best story to read?
The description of Lucy.
Yeah.
They didn't put the plot in it and they just put it straight out.
Perfect, 100%. What else?
She used said.
Yeah, exactly right. We have the word said and said is dead. What else? Can we think of anything else or is that it?
Is it like when they said she so many times in the first paragraph instead of
Yeah.
saying, like, they only said Lucy once?
Exactly right. Who are we still talking about? Lucy, who are we talking about? So I think those are just a couple of things that we can improve on when we do it. I'm going to give you guys the last 7 minutes of class to go through your homework and just get a start on it. That way you don't have too much. If you want to go back to character or setting or whatever you got up to and finish that first, or if you want to do this example, fix it up and write it underneath. Completely up to you. You guys just have this time to work on your homework and stuff.
I forgot to send you the assessment notification. Do you want that as well? Or
No,
just-
that's fine. All good. Thank you. Anyone have any questions about what they're doing in this time or good? I'm going to take silence as an all good. Adrian, I'm going to put that your homework is to work on your yearlies. Do you have any questions for me or anything you need from me? Okay. Next week, what day is it?
Monday.
Okay, cool. I'm sorry about the already. Okay.
Oh, I didn't even see. Carmen.
That was crazy. The way you and then snuck in, he was so scary. And
I'm trying.
you guys can pack up. Goodbye, Alvin and Risha. Everything's been recorded, so this is going to get sent into the group chat. So if you guys are doing your homework and you are like, what did that crazy lady say about characters? You guys can just skip through the recording and see what I was yapping about. Any questions before I see you guys next week? Okay, it
No,
was
it's all
lovely
good.
meeting you guys all. I'll see you next week. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.